Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to Tallinn. I'm very humbled to see such a large crowd coming here to Tallinn to join us for what is going to be a fascinating day of discussions. My name is Margus. I am the Estonian Special Representative to the Belarus Democratic Forces. But much more importantly, for today, I'll be the host of the conference. Before we get down into real discussions, you won't be hearing too much from me, luckily. I wanted to go over a few logistical issues, a few aspects that just to keep in mind during the day. First of all, as many have you already found near the back door, there are little headsets. Today's conference will be held in 3 languages: Estonian, English, and Belarus, and there will be simultaneous interpretation to each of those languages. So the speakers are able to speak any of these languages, and you can still understand them in any of those languages. With that, I would also point out the little design logo that we have going throughout the conference. That is a semiotic symbol of speaking, to be proud of speaking and writing in Belarus. Furthermore, I know we all know this already, but out of respect to other speakers, to your fellow guests, turn on your phones on silence for the duration of the conference. You may have also noticed pictures on the walls here. They will be shown also in the hallway in front of you. Those are very special, I think. They're made by Belarus children who have been forced to flee their country with their families. And the collection is called Our Beloved Belarus. And it's a symbol of hope and love for the country. And I hope you take a moment to look at those whenever you go by. One more interesting aspect, the name cards, most of you have. These are reflectors. Once the conference is over, you can peel away your sticker with your name or leave it on as you wish, and they will help to be seen at dark times, as Estonia very often at this time of the year is. Furthermore, it's a long day. It's going to be an interesting day. We have the schedule up in the walls outside. There will be coffee breaks. There will be lunch. And after the conference, I hope many of you can stay for a small reception after the conference where we can gather thoughts and think about what has been said and what to do next. But without much further lengthy introduction, I wish to start the conference, wish to start the discussions. And for that, I would first of all invite to the stage His Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, Mr. Margus.
Suur tänu.
Thank you very much and welcome to Tallinn. I'm going to speak in Estonian because it is an amazing possibility to speak on an important conference in my own mother tongue. We have to make sure that our culture survives, and this is what we're going to do throughout the day, using also English.
Tõlkemasinad käima ja meil on väga head tõlgid.
We have interpretation, so we don't need to do that. Welcome to Tallinn and welcome to Estonia. It is a shame that there were some technical glitches, but that does not change our goals, our dedication, and the fact that we will win in the end. And I would like to extend my greetings to all friends of Belarus here in Estonia as well, and those who are participating remotely. It is very important that we join forces, that we don't tire, and we stand for a free Belarus. Supporting the democratic forces of Belarus and the civic society is a foreign policy priority for Estonia, because we are fighting for the same values and we are fighting for the world we all want to live in. And we need to fight to make sure that a malicious force would not undermine others' freedom. And close to 2 years ago, Russia started its full-scale aggression against Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. And supporting Ukraine is also one of our primary priorities, because Ukraine is not fighting only for its own freedom, but for all of our freedom and for the kind of world that allows us to gather and realize ourselves as free people, that allows us to determine our own destiny. I'm happy that Estonia and the democratic forces of Belarus stand together in this fight. The regime in Minsk is dependent on Russia and is afraid of the outcome of Russian aggression, because they are in the same system, and the Minsk regime has reason to be fearful, because if Russia is defeated, then the Minsk regime is also defeated, and this comes with its own consequences. It is very important that Belarus is not forgotten in the West and the world. There are different conflicts in the world, and I think the world has gone crazy, but we need to be able to look at our phones, walk around, chew gum and cross the road at the same time. It's very complicated, but we need to do this, because otherwise we will lose all that is valuable to us, our lifestyle, the way we are used to living, our freedom. I'm very proud that this conference is taking place here in Tallinn, and that through this we are bringing greater attention to the democratic forces of Belarus. And I am convinced that you have other friends, other nations that support you, because the democratic forces of Belarus are in a complicated situation. It is very complicated to act outside your own country, and believe me, Estonians know what it means. We were occupied for 50 years, but at the same time, our government in exile continued working, even if it was just one representative. The three main topics of the conference, in my eyes, are media freedom. Estonia is a founding member of the Media Freedom Coalition, and starting from July this year, together with the Netherlands, we are the co-chair of this organization. We need to speak about media freedom, because information is everything. And if we can guarantee free media, then we can tell people about things in the way they are. And I believe that in the core, people are good. They just need adequate information to make their decisions. People actually want to live freely. And I truly believe in this. The second very important topic of discussion is accountability. Russian leadership must be held accountable for their crimes of aggression. It seems self-evident to people that the head of the country, when they carry out aggression against another nation, and on international level, everybody understands this. And with Russia, on the level of the General Assembly of the UN, this position has been taken, and the leadership of Russia is accountable. But unfortunately, international law does not define it that way. Russia, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Prime Minister have immunity for crimes of aggression in the sense of international law. We must establish a special tribunal like it was done at the end of the Second World War. And that is the way to end a war, to give assessments in terms of international law. And I cannot imagine if the international community does not make this decision to form a special tribunal and hold Putin accountable. It'd be very difficult to explain this to our people and Ukrainians, first and foremost. The regime in Minsk is mortally afraid of its own citizens, and repressions in recent years have only increased. Human rights organization Sviatlana has reported that there are 1,500 people held as political prisoners in this century, in the middle of Europe. It's unimaginable. And Sviatlana has been sentenced to prison for 19 years should she return to Belarus. And hopefully she will manage to arrive at our conference here today. This is another good example of a dictatorship operates in this day and age, and these long-term convictions are just for expressing your opinion, and we cannot tolerate it. And the Belarus regime is not only repressing its own people. We know that Lukashenko's regime is participating actively in deporting Ukrainian children, and that is a priority topic for me. Deportation of children, more than 20,000 children in the 21st century in Europe have been deported, and this is aided by Lukashenko's regime. We must work tirelessly regarding this topic. We need to get these children back, and we need to speak about this openly and publicly, and we need to hold Lukashenko's aggression accountable and hold him accountable for all the other crimes he has committed. And the third important topic is the future of a free and democratic Belarus, and that this does pertain not only to democratic institutions, but also history and identity. Because as Estonians, we know how important it is that we understand who we are and how important it is to be able to speak Estonian, the secret language. Even though we are located in a geographically complicated location. We've lived here for thousands of years. We intend to keep living here for thousands of years. Language is not only a communication tool, it's a system of logic. It identifies us. So I'm speaking at length, but I enjoy speaking in Estonian in front of you here because I can speak about what I think, not about focusing on the message I need to convey to you. And for that reason, I wish everybody a very successful, friendly, fruitful conference. Let's stand together for the values we share for as long as we can. And I am certain that we will be victorious. Long live Belarus.
Aitäh teile, härra minister.
Thank you very much.
Sir alluded, we have some technical issues. Madam Tsikhanouskaya is extremely sorry and feels very hurt that she can't be here right now due to plane delays. She will be arriving hopefully in the afternoon in a few hours. But nonetheless, she has from Riga airport about an hour ago recorded a video with a message, which I hope we can show in a second.
Дорогий министр Margus Tsahkna, поважаний Марта Каплюма.
Шановний Jerzy Pomianowski, ambassador
Dear friends of independent Belarus, first of all, let me thank you for organizing the first Belarusian conference. The Ministry of External Affairs, European Democratic Fund, Estonian Institute for Human Rights, Dignity, the Danish Institute Against Torture, EU Neighbors East, and also my representative in Estonia, Tsahkna. Thank you so much, friends. I'm very grateful to Minister Tsahkna for his words of support of European future of Belarus. Joining the European Union is our goal. Only the European Union, Belarus will be able to become truly independent. And this is the only alternative to the Russian world where Lukashenko and Putin are dragging us. I know that this way will not be easy, and maybe many will say impossible, but our Baltic neighbors made it. Now Moldova and Ukraine are moving towards this goal, and I'm sure we can do this too. And Estonia will support us on this journey. Although we don't share a border with Estonia, we share a common history. Many figures of science and culture of Belarus in 19th century and others, and 2,500 of Belarusian students who studied in Tartu University. Just like Belarus, Estonia announced its independence in the beginning of 1918, and the Belarusian National Republic was one of the first to acknowledge Estonian independence, and Estonia acknowledged Belarusian National Republic. In the hallway of my office, you can see a copy of the document. Former Urmas Reinsalu, former Minister of External Affairs of Estonia, President Mrs. Doni. Also, General Stanislav Bolot-Balakhovich fought for Estonian independence, and today Belarusian volunteers fight for independence of Ukraine. Belarusians and Estonians understand each other and support each other greatly. After events of 2020, many Belarusians found home in Estonia for a reason. I'm thankful to Estonian government and people of Estonia for strong support of democratic Belarus. Estonia selected a special representative to democratic forces, Margo Kuprima, to connect democratic society with democratic forces. Kristina Johansson.
Дякую.
I'm very pleased that the ambassador of the US in Estonia, Mr. George Kent, found time to participate in this conference. I'm very happy that in a couple of very soon, the US will start the conversation between the democratic forces of Belarus and the United States government. Similarly to Estonia, the US is our key partner. I am also pleased to welcome my representatives for National Revival, Nina Kaushik, Valer Kovalevsky. We build the alternative institutions of government to acknowledge and represent the interests of
Next year, we're spending online elections to coordination. Today, Alena Ravaglot, the speaker, is with us. She will tell you more about preparations for the elections. We will make sure that the regime will be held accountable for its crimes and also for displacing Ukrainian children to Russia. This week, we'll proceed to
Якая можа больш распавесці пра гэта.
Alena Koshik will tell you more about how we support Belarusian language and culture. Today, we are preparing to issue a new Belarusian passport, which will help to meet the needs of Belarusians abroad. Today, you will also hear more about it. We need to support Belarusian political prisoners and victims of repressions, and I'm welcoming Belarusian human rights defenders today who are not only witnesses to the regime's crimes, but also help its victims. Lukashenko's prison hold thousands of political prisoners who need our supports. These prisons are no different from Stalin's prisons. One of the prisoners, Elena Panasiuk, is suffering every day from torture. Today her husband Andrei is with us. He keeps fighting for her freedom. Freedom of political prisoners is our goal. Dear friends, the journey to freedom can be long and complicated, but this is the only right way. Let's do it together. I wish you a good conference and long live Belarus.
Thank you for Madam Tsikhanouskaya. And as I mentioned, she's literally on her way from Riga to Tallinn on the road at the moment. So hopefully she will be able to attend and come to the conference as well. But to go on, we have a panel discussion with His Excellency Mr. Tsahkna and two distinguished guests that I will shortly introduce. First, as Madam Tsikhanouskaya also mentioned, this conference is organized by the Estonian Institute of Human Rights, the European Endowment for Democracy, the EU Commission through the EU Neighborhood East, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Estonia. And keeping in that mind, I would ask soon on the stage Mr. Jerzy Pomianowski, a long-standing diplomat in the Polish Foreign Service, served also as an ambassador to Japan and the general director of the Polish Foreign Service, and has been working towards democracy for more than 30 years, starting already in the Polish democratic movement in the late 80s. In 2013, under the guidance of the EU and the Polish presidency of the EU, Mr. Pomianowski helped to set up the European Endowment of Democracy, and he's the executive director of that organization ever since. And with Mr. Pomianowski, to represent the United Transitional Government of the Democratic Forces of Belarus, I will invite Mr. Pavel Latushka, who's also a long time serving diplomat and politician in Belarus, serving also as an ambassador in various countries, and the Minister of Culture at one time. In 2020, after the events in Belarus, had to leave Belarus and formed the National Anti-Crisis Management Organization that is helping Belarus now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe you are in the center? No?
Yes, I'm here, I'm fine. You are in the center, because you are in the center. So.
Yes. Thank you very much, Marco, for this kind introduction. Indeed, the European Endowment for Democracy was set 10 years ago, and since 10 years, we are actually celebrating this year our 10th anniversary. We're also receiving support from Estonia. So, Mr. Minister, thank you very much for your government continuous support to the endowment. Endowment is supported by 27 countries. And includes in its board also non-EU members, UK and Norway. So that is an interesting and important place also for discussing not only support, but also policies, how to support democratic movements in different countries. We do support Belarus from the first day of our existence, and we will continue. This is part of our mission. And this is our strong conviction that this is an important part of our work. And of course, endowment is based in Brussels. Today, it's my great pleasure to be here with you in Tallinn. Of course, it's not first my visit to Tallinn, but it's always a very interesting and inspiring opportunity. And thank you very much for the government of Estonia and for all other partners to join hands and to make this conference possible. My role today is less to make keynote speeches, but rather to navigate a discussion. If we have such a great members of this panel, that's an enormous opportunity for all of us to hear about, on one side, what political decision makers of the European Union, embodied here in the presence of the Minister of the Member State and Vice President of the United Transition Cabinet of Belarus, to hear from them how they will see in coming days and future. For all of us, it is clear that if we look into the situation in our region, if we look into consequences and all possible future scenarios of the Russian war against Ukraine, how it may end and what kind of scenarios we have to take sometimes into consideration. In all those scenarios, the future of Belarus is equally crucial. And without this in mind, we cannot think of stable future and secure future of our region. That's why this is not a discussion only about Belarus. This is a discussion about all of us future security, all of Europe and all of the region that is neighboring Belarus especially. So from this perspective, I would like to take this discussion on and ask Pavel first. If you would like to paint the picture, we sometimes start to talk about 2025 elections. We know that today regime is so oppressive like never before. Before we could at least see some elements of opening space during the election process. I don't think that's going to be the case in 2025. But still, it is a very symbolic moment where people abroad, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, you and all members of the United Transition Cabinet can try to build a new legitimacy and try to create a metamorphosis of the opposition movement to get a new momentum. What your strategy would be and how you would paint this picture? What are your plans and what is your thinking? What is the philosophy behind and what are actions behind?
Дякую, великий господар Pomianowski.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Colleagues and friends, it's a big honor for me to be at the first Belarusian Estonia conference today, and I would like to, first of all, thank you, Ministry of External Affairs of Estonia, especially Minister, for this initiative. It is very, very important for us. I also thank you for your hospitality, for this wide representation of Belarusian democratic forces and also our partners from different countries. We used to say Belarusians today who are fighting for Belarus, they are the majority in our country. They have a lot of partners. But unfortunately, we don't have that many allies. But the problem is that democratic Belarus doesn't have active allies. Today, when we met with the minister, I said I was very happy that Estonia is exactly active ally of Belarusian democratic forces. And Estonia has shown it multiple times. And today's conference is another example of it. Thank you so much. I remember the first time I visited Tallinn. The first time I visited Tallinn 35 years ago. I used to play basketball. I don't know how's Estonian basketball today. I used to be part of Belarusian Socialist Republic team. We lost to Estonia, but these memories of 1988 are still with me. I believe that now we need to win together. Democratic Belarus and Estonia. What will happen in 2025? It is a very complex question and it is impossible to answer it, but we must understand what happened in 2020. incredible change happened, which is still ongoing. It hasn't stopped because it stayed here and here in Belarus. Belarusians who can't go outside and express their opinions today, start an NGO, start an independent media, express their opinions. This is all impossible. But in their hearts, in their heads, Belarusians are still for democracy. And if we understand it, then this is the basis of any following movements and actions. I will try not to obey the moderator and talk about a different thing. It's been 3 years since horrible events of 2020 happened in Belarus. 3 years. It continues for 3 years. Every day, thousands of political prisoners, all opposing political parties are closed. 140 NGOs are closed in Belarus. There aren't any independent media. Lukashenko is killing Belarusians. Yes, he started it already in the 90s, and we know it, but he's doing it systematically, starting from 2020 in incredible amounts. Violence, repressions of just like Stalin times. And the democratic world is looking at all of this. I have a question. What needs to happen? What else needs to happen so that he is held accountable? I have background in law, and when in 2020 I received an email from one European politician, I don't remember his last name, he wrote me in this letter, do one thing, take a legal road if you want Europe to help you. And what Minister told me today about a special international tribunal in the context of war in Ukraine, Belarusians are working on creating a special international tribunal for Lukashenko's regime. But I'm sorry, we can't do this. Only our allies can do it. Our partners and our active allies, because you are the ones who have the instruments. Belarusians in 2020 took responsibility for the country. They started a civilized, democratic, open movement with smiles and flowers, not with violence. We went out in the streets and said, we want Belarus to be a legal country. We want a country to be based on law and democracy. Belarusians didn't use any force, but in response, they were killed, tortured, and it continues every day. We are a civilized nation, we are a European nation. This all comes from our history, from our character. And today we have a question for our partners. Isn't it the time for responsibility? Because democracy starts from responsibility. Democracy will not happen in Belarus before responsibility happens. Some might say, okay, you'll win, you'll have courts, you'll have... and then you'll have your responsibility. That's why there are many platforms, which are also very important, that are collecting evidence of violence. And when the time comes, the responsibility will come. But why can't responsibility happen today? Until Lukashenko, the criminal and the war criminal, a person responsible for human rights crimes, until he is held accountable, we can talk about 2025 all we want, but it doesn't make any sense. Our today's strategy is to do everything so that based on collected evidence, for example, human rights violations, 136,000 victims, starting from May 2020 until May 2021. it could start case in international court. As a lawyer, I don't understand what stops us from doing it. Crimes against children, materials are already taken in international court. Universal jurisdiction. I don't understand why European countries refuse to start actions against Belarusian criminals. This is a test for democracy that Belarusian people are undergoing right now, and also European Union is undergoing this test. If we have faith in Belarus, if we have a perspective of changes in 2025, or maybe in 2030.
Pavel, this is very important issues. I think apart from the responsibility of the Lukashenko, you said and our delay in pursuing crimes that he has committed, I think you have said something important. У серця и ума белорусов є демократія. Значит, the people of Belarus believe in democracy. And this is the strongest and the most important driver for change. And I think this is something that we as international community need to see. And before 2020, we at EED were often hearing from our stakeholders that the society is so, stagnated, that there is no spirit, there is no intention for change. So we have to admit, maybe we have to reduce level of support. This was a narrative before 2020. Then suddenly international community woke up and understood that Belarus society is ready for democracy and wants democracy. It only has a very oppressive and a criminal regime that is stopping it from reaching out for democracy. So now I'm asking you, Margus, in your position as a minister and a member of the Foreign Affairs Council of European Union, where those discussions are taking place. What are the strategy? What is the Estonian strategy and what is European strategy? How we can do better? How we can respond to those expectations of leadership of the Belarus democratic elite and the whole society that is dreaming and waiting for a better future for their country.
Ma kasutan võimalust ka siis rääkida.
I will take the opportunity to speak in Estonian. The basis of everything is what we have heard already. Everybody has understood that the people of Belarus want to be free. The people, the nation is not stagnated. And the Belarusian people are paying a very high price. All the people who have been killed, imprisoned, it's all publicly known information, and it is vital that we publish this information as much as possible, because this cannot be avoided. Nobody can close their eyes to it. Secondly, it might sound cynical, but Russian-Ukraine aggression against Ukraine is an opportunity for the democratic forces in Belarus. Everything is open. What's taking place, even in Estonia, where we were convinced that Putin and Russia will carry out aggression, that it will not stop with 2014, but even we did not believe what actually took place. Deporting children. And why am I coming back to the topic of deportation of children? Because this is universal. This affects all people in the world. When we hear about Global South, their mothers and fathers everywhere, everybody understands this. And Lukashenko's regime participating in this atrocious crime, this cannot be overlooked. Plus participation in the war of aggression, in the crime of aggression together with Putin, which is also a crime committed by the leadership in the meaning of the special tribunal, plus everything Lukashenko has committed against his own people with the regime. So what is the strategy? To help Ukraine as much as we can, for as long as we can, to gain victory, so that international law would be restored in all its aspects, and to keep making connections to Lukashenko, because Lukashenko is part of the system. Lukashenko's regime is part of this system. Lukashenko must also be held accountable for all the crimes of aggression. This is the opportunity. And it sounds cynical that aggression against another nation, a neighbor nation, is opportunity for freedom. This is the moment, and to be ready. And coming back to the beginning of the answer, Ukrainian people themselves must make it through it, must not get tired. It's easy for me to say, but we remember Russian occupation, Soviet occupation, but it's very difficult, especially when you see the free nations and free Europe on the other side of the border. I'm sure it's very difficult for Belarusian people to see this. So right now, these things go hand in hand.
Thank you. I mean, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, in her video speech, she said that we need to avoid Ruski Mir. What she really means, Ruski Mir equals Ruskaya Vaina. So this is something that is a direct threat to our security. And that philosophy needs to be fought not only through the sanctions, through the support, military support to Ukraine, through supporting and promoting and helping Belarus elite to fight for democracy in their own country. But we also need to find some way to address, through independent media, through new narrative, a society inside Russia to try to exhaust this psychological base for such aggression that exists. Is there anything from the Estonian specifically experience that you can bring to this and also promote through European Union structures that can be helpful in addressing the bigger picture also in this format, where we have to think not only about Belarus, Ukraine, we have to think also that if Russia doesn't change, we will never feel secure here.
Yeah.
Yes, that was addressed to me. It is a fight for the values. 10, 15 years ago, value politics on international level was not practical, but now it is, because we are fighting for our living space, so to say, where we are fighting for the space of democracy, where rules of democracy apply and where they don't. And you said it, we're not speaking only about Russian aggression about Ukraine. When we look at China, what we're looking at what's taking place in Africa, the Hamas situation, the conflict there in Israel and Gaza, and everybody who's related to it. This is a huge narrative. And this is one of the reasons why Estonia decided, as the co-chair of the Media Freedom Coalition, decided to take a position. It's very important that we have media freedom as much as possible. Information must reach people. And what we are doing as a small country, specifically, we have decided with the government that up until 2035, we will issue temporary residence permits to journalists and people representing the media for Belarusians and Ukrainians. And this is very important, and all other activities as well. The right to speak, the right to receive objective information. Also the people living in Russia. This is the grounds for people to make decisions. Let's be honest. The Kremlin propaganda, when you watch it for years and years, and I've done it as a hobby. If you only watch that propaganda, then maybe in the end you will start believing the narratives. It's done very skillfully, but inevitably, well, it's not tied to the real world at all. So if we want people to continue to believe in the opportunity of freedom, then we need to give them hope with our action outside, in the EU, in the world, and provide objective information. And with Belarus, it's very important that the representatives of democratic forces outside Belarus continue to work, and it's our job to support their work as much as possible. That is vital. That people see that they have representatives, and I'm very grateful for this work to all the people who do this work, knowing that their own people at home are suffering. It's not easy. I'm sure it's very difficult.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Margus. We just have 8 minutes left, so let me give a chance also to such a great gathering here to engage in this discussion. I invite you to have a quick round of the 2-3 questions that the panelists and myself, if there is a question, may address. We will collect maybe 3 questions and try to respond. So please raise your hand. And is the microphone on the?
So yes, there's
audience?
2 people that can help you with the microphone. And please just take your earpiece out when you use the microphone.
Поднимите руку, raise your hand, and then ask a question. If you won't raise the question, then I will continue moderate.
Everything is clear.
Yes, we have here a question from the rector of the ECHO University. Please, Krzysztof, introduce yourself.
Krzysztof Rybiński, I'm a new rector of European Humanities University. So a quick comment, I just found out that only 2% of classes in my university are in Belarusian. And I'm taking steps to increase this percentage significantly because I find it deeply out of place at the university that is Belarusian University in Exile. So I expect more Belarusian language, Belarusian University in Exile. The question is about fatigue. We don't know how long will this march of democratic forces take to have democracy in Belarus. Poland has done it since the 1980s. It took 10 years from 1989 happened. My question is, what democratic forces of Belarus plan and what international community plans to have be prepared for the possible fatigue, so for this uncertainty that may take 1 year, hopefully, may take 10 years. How to invest in structure, network, human capital, finances to be prepared for the possible fatigue that may happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Krzysztof, for these questions. Very good question. Do we have any other question? I don't see, so we can answer this question. Sorry? There is one.
There, one there.
Go ahead.
Thank you for your broad speech, and Belarusian people
Can you just
have to thank you for all that. But I have a question for Mr. Margus. What Estonian citizens think, and maybe they're afraid about election in 2024 in USA, and if we will have Mr. Trump, I think it will be a very big problem for our region, for Ukraine, for Belarus, or it's only our fear, or it's a real fear that we can have in our mind and can take in our mind. Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself just for the sake of the audience?
I'm sorry, Tatiana Martinova. I am a Belarus opposition journalist and как будет общественный деятель? Public. В общем, so I'm a citizen of Belarus, normal citizen of Belarus who make groups in Facebook in 2020. And,
influencer.
Yes, I'm an influencer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Stop Fear. Stop Fear. Its group was Stop Fear and became the most popular political groups in Facebook for all history of Belarusian Facebook. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other question we have around us? I see that. Okay.
If I may, the mic seems to be working.
Introduce yourself.
Good morning. I am Mikhail Fedoto. I'm a Belarusian national, and I teach here at Tallinn University, and I've been working in Estonian academia for a few years now. I wanted to say thank you to all the speakers for everything you've done to support the democratic movement in Belarus and beyond. I guess my question is mostly to Mr. Tsahkna, because I wanted to pick up on a point that you made, where I appreciate that Estonia, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which Belarus is as a Lukashenko regime has been complicit in, has taken a more granular approach than just like issuing a blanket ban on Belarusians, which has allowed people like myself who have been working here from before the war to continue doing so. And you mentioned there's exemptions for journalists who are fleeing the regime. One more targeted group that, as someone who works in academia, I'm concerned about is academics. So at the moment, one of the situations that I've been observing is there's a certain number of, let's say, doctoral students at Estonian universities in Tartu and here in Tallinn, who upon graduation are not actually eligible to continue being in Estonia, even if the universities are interested in keeping them on as lecturers, postdoctoral researchers, or so on, because they are not eligible to apply for an employment residence permit. And basically my question is, has there been any discussion regarding considering making some sort of exemption for academics, as well as journalists and ICT professionals and these other groups? Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Let's start with answering first questions about fatigue. Pavel, I will ask you to answer this question. Just to make a general comment from my side, now I know the Belarus translation of the European Fund for Democracy, because Sviatlana has used Europski Fond Podtrimki Demokratii, was supporting when there was a first fatigue 10 years ago until 2020, where everyone was saying that Belarus probably is difficult to support because there is no spirit to fight. And now we may have a second fatigue, and still we will continue support. And I am pretty sure you also have a good answer to the issue of fatigue. So Pavel, please, but 2 minutes only, if you can.
Вельми коротко, briefly. Что касается стратегии, стратегия повинна.
Very shortly about strategy. Strategy must be a joint, common, for European Union and Belarusian democratic forces. It must be built on trust and honesty, understanding that we talk to another party as a dialogue, not as a monologue. We will be heard and we will be listened to, and we will take actions together and make decisions together. There are more and more threats that something will be decided without us. Nothing about us without us, as we say. For us, it is a challenge to keep our sovereignty, keep our nation, and this must be the main elements of the strategy. Belarusian language. I'm very happy that I can speak for my colleagues here, my colleagues from Transitional Cabinet. It is very important for us to create a Belarusian National University abroad, maybe in Warsaw, Prague. Belarusian National University, European University, which will give European class education for future of Belarus. This is an element of strategy, and this is a priority. Civil society, support of without society, we cannot change anything. Information, active information, because right now we're fighting against incredibly powerful information warfare of Russia, and it is a very hard fight because they are there with every TV screen. There is propaganda spreading. When I read yesterday who was the I realized that an important literature piece of Belarusian culture will not be taught at schools anymore, and this is it is important to acknowledge the democratic institutions that we have. We have selected president, we have a coordination council, and we also have an opposition which doesn't agree with our actions and will criticize us. And this is okay, and this is a part of democracy. About motivation, somebody asked me how long I will stay motivated. I'm sentenced to 18 years in prison in Belarus, but I'm joking. It will happen earlier. It is important to have a joint strategy, joint actions, and exact outcomes. We have a lot of responsibility for Belarus, but also a lot of things depend on our partners. I am motivated, but I don't have a general formula how to motivate everyone. Everyone present here does their own very important work. I know many people present in this hall, and I'm sure that people who participate here today, they're all very motivated, and this is the signal we send to Belarus today.
Дуже важливо.
Так jest.
Margus, you have easy questions. One about Trump.
Very easy questions.
And one about exemptions and other technicalities that are crucial also for the people in exile.
Yeah. The first question about elections in US. We are talking here about democratic values and democracy. So US is a democratic country. So this is something what we all understand. So whoever US people will elect for the presidency and who will be the president, it is up on the US people. So it's not up to Estonian foreign minister. But I can say that I'm not afraid, and nobody in Estonia is not afraid in the meaning. I was a defense minister in 2016-17 when the Trump was first time president, and we worked pretty well in the meaning that on the defense and all the other policies what we had. And I can always also say that I'm not taking any positions about who is good or who is bad, but there are facts, and I'm talking about the facts. And at this time, actually, our defense cooperation with the US went more and more stronger in the meaning of troops and fundings and so on. So just to think that who will become and who is not will become the president of US, this is not my job here. I'm sure US will be the leader and democratic leader of the world, and as they have been. And our job is to explain what we are doing, what are the problems here. I was in my visit to US lately, like 2 weeks ago, and not only in DC. I went to Arkansas, the state Arkansas, to meet the political leadership there and also different people. And the questions were really straightforward about why Europe is so weak, why we are not investing, why we are not supporting Ukraine enough, why we are not creating jobs enough to US and so on. But I really explained in a cool mood that actually European Union countries together with Britain and Norway, we are now supporting by figures more Ukraine military waste than US. And it was a surprise for these people, and they said we must do more, and I'm sure that US will continue its support. And EU is creating the most jobs in the US, or a big part of that. And I'm the Foreign Minister of Estonia, and I'm here in Arkansas to visit the factory Lockheed Martin to buy, actually we have deal already, approximately $300 million worth HIMARS rocket systems. So this deal is creating jobs here, maybe close to 100 or even more. So we invest to your economy. And then if you talk about these kind of things, people are understanding, okay, you are putting your part, we are putting your part. So I think that we must talk, we must explain, and we must understand as well that all different campaigns, election campaigns, all different countries, in Europe, in US, everywhere, they are very, very based on conflicts, today's communication. to divide societies, and the same is in Europe. We just had elections in Poland, we had elections in Slovakia, we will have elections everywhere. And this is a problem we have to face, we have to discuss, and I believe that people will, during the democratic elections, make the right decision. We just must rely on the solid and objective information. That's the case. So I'm not agreeing with these people that we are going to already say that who is going to do what. Let's talk about this. Let's have a discussion. Let's have democracy. We are fighting for democracy as well in Belarus. So that's my position. And exceptions, actually, we made already exemptions about the sanctions and also the people who are living here, and also for Belarusian, they were the medical personnel and the students. So our government decided it in this spring. But we know these kind of problems, and I'm honest, we don't want to do too many exemptions because Estonia is running the most conservative or most active policy about sanctions against Russia and Belarus. But all these kind of exemptions are making them weaker, but we have to face about the precise topics and issues, so we are more than ready to discuss this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We exhausted our time. Let me summarize this with one maybe sentence. First, as long as Estonia is a member of EU, there will be no fatigue to implement strategy for democratic Belarus. That's I am sure. Żyje Belarus!
Thank you.
And thank you very much for the speakers. Round of applause. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for our speakers.